everybody, and welcome along to Transfer Talk.
Manchester United are trying to sign forwards like they're going out of fashion. What would feel more realistic to you? Crystal Palace is Jean-Philippe Mateta or Sporting's Victor Gyökeres?
Well, this is another story that's developed over the course of the last 24 hours. Now, you speak to Crystal Palace and they'll say absolutely no chance does Jean-Philippe Mateta leave us this summer. He's got 2 years left on his current deal. He had 37 goal involvements in the Premier League in the last 2 seasons, was a key part of that side that went and won the FA Cup last season, and he's been a key player for Crystal Palace and Oliver Glasner. He's really hit the back of the net with his goals and shown that he can be that number 9, probably one of the best number 9s in the Premier League. He's right up there. Of course, he's not on that level of Erling Haaland and Mo Salah, but certainly a player that has been outstanding since he joined in 2021. It cost Crystal Palace just 15 million from Mainz. Like we say, 2 years left on his deal, and Crystal Palace are currently in talks with his representatives over extending his Crystal Palace contract. That comes in the backdrop of this interest from not only Manchester United, but also Juventus. So one to keep an eye on over the course of the next few days. We know that Palace's stance is simple, not for sale. But of course, we know that Manchester United are looking to rebuild this front three. We know that they've got Matheus Cunha in. We know that there's a second offer in for Brian Mbeumo. And of course, another player of interest is that man that Ruben Amorim knows so well, Victor Gyökeres. 49 goals in all competitions last season. No question, he's a goal machine. He's played in English football before with Coventry. He's been absolutely outstanding since going over to Sporting. Obviously worked with Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim signed him for Sporting, so knows all about the play. He's had 2 incredible seasons. Obviously a little bit older than the other players that they've been linked with regards to number 9s. But one to keep an eye on. Still no formal club-to-club contact as of yet. You get the feeling, though, that one Man United get that Mbeumo-shaped hole filled, they'll then say, right, number 9, that's our final piece of that front three. Victor Gyökeres is the man, and we know that Sky in Italy reporting that Højlund is of interest to Inter Milan. So, yeah, a little bit of a jigsaw there, but possibly things moving this weekend.
Mark, thank you very much indeed.
Then, guys, one more important news of the day. I wanted to confirm something I said already 1 month ago. Alejandro Garnacho will leave Manchester United. The decision is made not only on Ruben Amorim side, but also management side. So it's time to part ways between Man United and Ale Garnacho. It's over. They are already looking for solutions. There was some call from Bayer Leverkusen. So Bayer Leverkusen are interested in the player with Erik ten Hag, who appreciates Alejandro Garnacho, but at the moment financially looks like a difficult deal to do, a very difficult deal to do for Leverkusen. So that's the point on the German club. Some interest from Italy, but especially from the Premier League. Premier League clubs are calling and pushing for Alejandro Garnacho. So let's see what happens in terms of negotiations with Man United, but there is a strong possibility to see Alejandro Garnacho playing in Premier League with a different shirt than Man United. So it's a strong possibility, is a concrete scenario for this summer. Let's see what happens with these calls from Bayer Leverkusen. We have rumors about Italy, so there is a lot of interest in Garnacho in this moment, but also from Premier League. So from what I heard, 3 Premier League clubs have called for Alejandro Garnacho, trying to understand the situation, and the answer on player and club side is the same, ready to part ways this summer. So keep an eye on the situation of Alejandro Garnacho.
We've got an update for you this morning regarding Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's in talks about extending his Crystal Palace contract, but clubs such as Manchester United and Juventus are also interested in signing him this summer.
Yeah, Mateta has established himself as arguably one of the best number 9s in the Premier League since he moved to Palace 4 years ago. He scored 36 times in the past 2 seasons and helped Palace to that FA Cup win last month.
Palace signed him in January of 2021 from Mainz, initially on a loan in a deal which is worth about £15 million. He's got 2 years left on his Palace contract, and then at 27 years old, he'd be expected to be valued at about £35 million. Palace want Mateta to stay and say he's not for sale.
Is their headline. So according to The Sun, Henry, it looks like Gyökeres might be on his way to Old Trafford.
Yeah, I mean, he was heavily linked with Arsenal, but Seško looks an opportunity for them, for Arsenal. I mean, Gyökeres, obviously, he knows Ruben Amorim very well. He would absolutely fit into that that system which he played under Amorim at Sporting. He can play that lone striker role, which Rasmus Højlund is obviously struggled in. He's being linked with move to Italian clubs. So yeah, it makes a lot. But I thought Manchester United were saying that they didn't have much money. And, they bought Cunha. They're being linked with Brian Mbeumo. They're holding on to Bruno Fernandes, which is great news. They're going to have to start offloading a few players soon as well if they are going to sign these. But if you can get a player like Gyökeres in, fantastic. He's a terrific striker.
So, Mark, if Gyökeres does go to Manchester United and they've signed Cunha already and Mbeumo could be on the way from Brentford, I mean, it all suddenly looks a lot rosier for United. But as Henry alluded to there, there'll have to be some outgoings as well, you would suspect.
Yeah, well, I mean, those three players you mentioned, that amounts to just short of £200 million because Gyökeres has got a £70 million release clause. So, Man United were pleading poverty just a couple of weeks ago, and like Henry says, they've suddenly found a bit of cash behind the sofa. But, I know they've had some financial results that have looked a little bit better than they expected today, and I think that will help them. And we were told that they could afford to do Cunha and Delap, but obviously Delap went to Chelsea, but Delap was only £30 million. So it's a big leap to Gyökeres and to Mbeumo, but they need those players. But they've got a lot of players to move on. Marcus Rashford, Anthony, Jadon Sancho, maybe a couple of others, Alejandro Garnacho perhaps, maybe even Kobbie Mainoo. So they're going to have to get people out of the door. And, Gyökeres was a big success under Ruben Amorim at Sporting. We know that he had time in England at Brighton, at Coventry. Has he got it? What it takes in the Premier League? I know that there was a little bit of doubt at United at one point that he could make the step up in the Premier League, having been in the Portuguese League. The name that was mentioned to me was Darwin Núñez, who has struggled at Liverpool after being at Benfica. He scored goals, Núñez, but he's not scored at anything like the level that they expected him to. So that is a big question, I guess. United are trying to sign players that have got Premier League pedigree, but obviously Gyökeres has had a great season at Sporting. He's done it back to back. But like Henry says, the money is suddenly appearing out of nowhere.
Henry, let's stay talking with Manchester United and Ruben Amorim. A headline here in the Telegraph. Amorim told major improvement is expected by United, even if they have a strong summer transfer window. Given how this season has gone for Amorim, he's really going to have to hit the ground running next season, isn't he, Henry?
Well, he is, but remember, he arrived halfway through the season, and any coach manager will tell you that they need a pre-season. He also needs a proper transfer window. We've discussed some of the players he would like to sign. I mean, he's also having to deal with a squad which is basically created by about 4 or 5 different managers, almost different recruiting teams. And that absolutely needs addressing, players going out. But the main issue is his tactical template of 3-4-2-1 is simply not suited to that squad, which is more 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. So the club, they knew that. They knew how he was going to play. So when Ineos brought him in, they now have to absolutely accept that they've got to back their man. They've got to do it long term. He has to win the arguments with individual players. He has to win the argument with the recruitment department and get the players.
Manchester United are determined to make Brentford forward Brian Mbeumo their second signing of the summer, but they could face competition from one of their Premier League rivals. Thomas Frank has told Spurs he wants them to rival Manchester United for £60 million Brian Mbeumo. Frank is set to be confirmed as Ange Postecoglou's successor next week and is keen to take Brentford's in-demand forward with him to North London. Mbeumo would represent a statement signing for Spurs chairman Daniel Levy, who could trump United's bid with Champions League football. Although United remain favourites for the 25-year-old's signature, Mbeumo now has a decision as to whether to follow his head or his heart. The Cameroon international bagged 20 league goals over the past season to attract the attention of United and Newcastle, with the Magpies' January move for him rejected. Only Mohamed Salah, Alexander Isak and Erling Haaland outscored him in the top flight last term, while his 7 assists were also key in helping Brentford to a top-half finish. United have made 2 bids for him, with the player, as things stand, open to a move and undeterred by the poor first season under Ruben Amorim. Mbeumo has a year left on his contract with an option for an extra year. But United, who have held extensive talks with his representatives for some time, have yet to agree a deal with Brentford, leaving the door open for Spurs to make their move. The offer on the table at Old Trafford is around £150,000 a week, with add-ons taking the package up to £200,000 a week. Spurs would offer Mbeumo around £130,000 a week, and although bonuses would still leave them short of the United package, the North Londoners would still have the pull of